Today we're going to explore the Western psyche and the archetype of the devouring mother. External forces shaping the European psyche across the West. External political, social and legal forces operate beyond most individuals' volition. Demographic changes through sustained mass migration are reshaping the ethnic and cultural fabric of historically European nations. Expansive hate speech laws such as the EU's Digital Service Act, Ireland's Incitement to Violence or Hatred Bill, the UK's Online Safety Act, and similar measures in Canada increasingly restrict speech that might critique these shifts or assert native cultural concerns, while offering heightened protections to designated minorities. These policies reflect deeper ideological currents. In Repressive Tolerance, 1965, Herbert Marcuse wrote, quote, "Liberating tolerance, then, would mean intolerance against movements from the right and tolerance of movements from the left. The small and powerless minorities which struggle against the false consciousness and its beneficiaries must be helped." End quote. This inversion promotes minority assertiveness while constraining the majority, fostering conformism and narrowing acceptable perspectives. To understand how these external pressures shape us internally, Erich Neumann's work on the Great Mother archetype is indispensable. The devouring mother, which is the negative pole of the Great Mother archetype, manifests today in overprotective institutions that smother individuation through care, guilt, safetyism, and equity. Importantly, we must distinguish the feminine, which is relational, containing, and a nurturing energy, as present in both sexes' psyches from the biological female, just as the masculine, which is assertive, ordering, and individuating, exists in both. We do, of course, come from a mother and father, and so we possess both the masculine and the feminine in our own minds, in our own psyches. A woman possessed by the devouring mother may enmesh her sons, pathologize their independence, or demand equity that devours difference. A man or boy in her grip becomes the compliant son, inwardly directed and approval-seeking. Much of the contemporary demand for what a man should be comes from women possessed by this archetype. They articulate how they would like men to be: emotionally available, non-dominant, relationally attuned, and supportive of female autonomy. In practice, this often reduces man to a passive accessory, a safe, affirming presence whose primary role is to please and shower praise upon the female. This neuters the masculine desire for raw, unapologetic self-assertion. Individuality diminishes. Man is no longer the defender of the boundary, but is reduced to being alive simply to serve the arrogance of those possessed by the devouring mother's amoral tendency to subsume all volition into herself. Historical and mythic parallels. We have the sacrifice to the mother across history and myth, and these stories are filled with the sacrifice of the young male to the mother goddess. In the cult of Cybele, her consort Attis castrates himself and dies. Her galley priests followed suit, castrating themselves and adopting feminine dress to serve her. Similar patterns appear with Adonis and Tammuz, the dying vegetation gods offered to ensure the mother's renewal. Neumann describes the archetype, quote, "Thus the great mother is Ouroboros, terrible and devouring, beneficent and creative, a helper, but also alluring and destructive." The psychologist James Hillman adds, quote, "The mother complex is not my mother, it is my complex," end quote. Modern echoes appear in aspects of trans ideology, where many adolescent boys seek transition to female embodiment, a psychic and sometimes physical surrender of masculine form. Media and academia reinforce this by portraying straight men, especially white men, as idiotic, toxic, or problematic. Gillette's toxic masculinity ad, DEI curricula framing traditional masculinity as oppressive, and sitcom tropes of bumbling, foolish fathers. Father absence exacerbates the wound. Children without integrated masculine models show higher rates of emotional, behavioral, and academic difficulties. Without the paternal principle of challenge and boundary, the devouring mother's influence grows unchecked. Carl Jung writes of the necessary struggle, quote, "The hero is an ego hero, and it comes with the courage to face the terrible mother," end quote. The individual combating and facing conformism. Abortion in Ireland. This is a predictable outcome, and Ireland provides a stark illustration. Since the 2018 referendum and the 2019 legalization of abortion on demand, numbers have exploded. In 2024, there were a record 10,852 abortions, an 8.16% increase from 2023 and a 62.8% rise since 2019. Through this archetypal lens, to look at things psychologically, this surge is predictable. When the devouring mother dominates, the generative feminine, which is the positive motherhood, containment of new life, is inverted. The maternal impulse turns inward and possessive, choosing the mother's convenience, autonomy, or equity over the separate, emerging life of the child. The compliant son culture, which has neutered heroic masculine protection of boundaries and legacy, offers little counterbalance. The result is a society that devours its own future under the banner of care and choice. The political system of the devouring mother, which is a society dominated by the active devouring mother archetype, would naturally produce the maternalistic, technocratic welfare state, a soft, bureaucratic authoritarianism cloaked in compassion. This system prioritizes comprehensive care from cradle to grave, expansive regulation of speech and behavior for safety, redistribution for emotional equity, therapeutic governance that pathologizes dissent as harm, and institutional absorption of family and community functions. It justifies its control through maternal language, for your own good, for the good of all, for the greater good, protecting the vulnerable, and for inclusion or diversity, while discouraging risk, competition, heroic striving, and strong boundaries. Innovation stagnates in favor of stability. Individuality yields to group harmony. Legacy and paternity are subordinated to collective provision. Both men and women can administer it, but its psychic tone is possessive containment over individuated freedom, the group above the individual. A man possessed by this complex typically displays passivity, chronic conflict avoidance, performative empathy that masks resentment, self-censorship to maintain approval, and a tendency to outsource moral authority to feminine or institutional voices. He may champion equity outwardly, while inwardly disengaging from responsibility, fatherhood, or boundary defense. Aggression turns passive-aggressive or is redirected into virtue signaling. Western people face immense difficulty even naming this complex. Any critique is reflexively labeled hatred or misogyny, triggering deep defensiveness. This taboo protects the archetype's dominance. To question the maternalist framework is to risk being cast as the bad son who rejects care itself. Leaning toward the positive mother would demonstrate and is grounded in the reality that the archetype is not wholly destructive. The mother archetype, just as the father archetype, just as me and you, we possess a negative tendency, a destructive tendency, and a positive or creative tendency. A conscious turn toward the positive, nurturing, great mother archetype, which would be the containing generative force that holds without possessing, offers a powerful remedy. This aspect supports growth, encourages healthy separation, and provides a secure base from which the heroic masculine can emerge. This is the mother that wants to see her young boy grow into a good man, and his own man, not grow up to be mam's male partner in life. It manifests in families and communities that nurture resilience rather than fragility, celebrate difference rather than enforce sameness, and protect without infantilizing. When balanced with strong paternal and heroic energies, the positive mother restores fertility, literal and cultural, and counters the devouring inversion. Ireland offers an exceptional example of this in the story of Queen Maeve and Cuchulainn. The story tells of Queen Maeve and how she embodies the devouring mother in pursuit of equity. Jealous of her husband, she launches the Táin Bó Cúailnge, the battle raid of Cooley, to enforce parity, willing to destroy the land and its defenders. This drive for equivalence nearly consumes the heroic order. Cuchulainn offers the living remedy. In his warp spasm, he asserts his raw nature totally and unapologetically. He does not seek approval or soften himself to please. He defends the boundary with conscious, embodied heroism. By standing firm, he protects the positive feminine, which is embodied in the land and is equated with sovereignty, without submitting to its devouring aspect. Just like Niall kissing the Quailic, he meets the archetype directly, transforming potential destruction into renewal. Our imagination is the canvas on which the gods paint, or the archetypes, through our choice, our deference, or our neglect. External forces constellate the devouring mother, but recognition and mythic recollection empower us to integrate her. Europeans, heirs to a strong heroic tradition, can reclaim the masculine capacity to assert healthy boundaries and co-create order. Awareness is the first heroic act.